The call came at 4:17 a.m. Not from my wife, from a blocked number. I let it ring once, twice, 3 times. People who call before dawn don't bring good news. They bring endings, I answered without speaking. A man's voice, calm, professional, almost gentle. Mr. Hale? Federal agents are en route to your office. I suggest you cooperate. The line went dead. No explanation, no accusation, just inevitability. Beside me, my wife shifted in her sleep. Lila always slept lightly, years of being a trauma. Surgeon trained her to wake at the slightest disturbance. But that morning she didn't stir. Not when I stood, not when I dressed, not when I paused at the doorway and watched her breathe. Her phone was on the nightstand, face down, charging, a small detail. I remember thinking how strange it was that she'd turned it face down. Lila never did that. By the time I reached my office, the building was surrounded. Black SUVs, no sirens, no spectacle, just quiet authority. They didn't shout. They didn't need to. The lead agent held up a warrant and studied my face as if memorizing it. Nuclear material trafficking, he said. The words sounded abstract, like a headline about someone else. Behind him, another man stood slightly apart. Tailored suit, FAA insignia pinned to his lapel. He met my eyes and smiled. That was the moment something inside me shifted, not into panic, into calculation, because I had never worked with nuclear material. But I knew systems, and this one was already too clean. By noon, my name was trending. By evening, my wife had stopped answering my calls. I told myself it was shock. Denial is efficient. It buys time. Lila and I had built everything together. She stitched bodies back together in operating rooms. I designed aerospace logistics software for government contracts. We were precision people, structured, predictable, stable. 2 weeks before the raid, she'd started coming home later. Hospital audit, she said once. Regulatory review, another time. She used language that felt borrowed. I remembered the fundraiser in March, the one where she'd introduced me to a man named Daniel Mercer, FAA inspector, charming in a restrained way. The kind of man who doesn't dominate a room but quietly rearranges it. He asked intelligent questions about my work. Too intelligent. How does your system flag anomalous shipments? He'd said casually, sipping wine. I'd explained. I'm proud of my designs. I didn't notice Lila watching him instead of me. Now, sitting alone in my attorney's office, I replayed every interaction. The late-night messages she'd angled away from me, the sudden new passcode on her phone, the way she'd flinched when my arrest flashed across the news. Not fear for me, fear of exposure. When she finally came to see me, she didn't sit close. They have evidence, she said quietly. Emails, transfers, encrypted files sent from my terminal authorizing the shipment of restricted isotopes through a shell supplier. It was meticulous. I studied her face while she spoke. There's a moment when the person you love becomes a stranger. It's subtle, a slight delay before answering, a careful choice of words, the absence of spontaneous emotion. Daniel Mercer hadn't forced his way into my life. He'd been invited, and Lila had held the door. I was released pending investigation. They believed I would crumble. I went home instead. Lila had moved into the guest room. Distance is strategy. She thought I was distracted by legal defense. She was wrong. I began with the simplest principle, access. Every file they claimed I sent required dual authentication. My biometric signature and a rotating security key stored on an encrypted token. That token had never left my office. Except once, the night of the hospital fundraiser. Leela had stopped by my office before the event, said she forgot her shawl, kissed me on the cheek. I remembered stepping out to take a call. 5 minutes. Long enough? I pulled building access logs, cross-referenced timestamps. My workstation registered a login, 32 minutes after we left for the fundraiser. Remote access, from inside the building. I requested hospital visitor records under the pretense of gathering character witnesses. Daniel Mercer had signed in 3 times over 2 months. Under FAA compliance review, he had no jurisdiction in a hospital. But he did in aviation logistics, and my company handled aerospace routing software. It was elegant. Convince the surgeon wife her husband is cutting corners. Show her evidence. Tell her national security is at stake. She would justify everything in the name of safety. I recovered deleted fragments from Lila's cloud backups. Encrypted chats. Not romantic. Strategic. He doesn't suspect anything. He trusts me. We'll trigger the transfer during the March 18th audit window. Her words. Clinical. Detached. I didn't confront her. I cooked dinner, asked about her patients, kissed her forehead. Inside, I was mapping the entire operation. Daniel had underestimated one thing. I built anomaly detection algorithms, and human behavior follows patterns, too. The breakthrough came in silence. A discrepancy in the shipping metadata embedded within the forged transfers. The routing path mirrored an FAA training data set publicly archived 2 years ago. Outdated, inaccurate. It wasn't my architecture. It was his template. I compiled everything into a single report. Access logs, metadata analysis, hospital sign-in sheets, encrypted message recoveries. Then I requested a meeting with Internal Affairs. I didn't accuse. I presented. Mercer's smile faded as the evidence stacked. The room grew very quiet when the digital forensics analyst confirmed the routing signature mismatch. Lila was brought in separately. When she saw the report on the table, her composure cracked. "You said he'd never trace it," she whispered. Not to me. To Mercer. That was her mistake. She looked at him for reassurance. Not at her husband. I stayed seated, hands folded. I didn't raise my voice. "I never smuggled anything," I said evenly. "But you both did." Mercer was escorted out first. Lila reached for me then. For the first time in months, I stepped back. They arrested him within 48 hours. Abuse of authority, evidence fabrication, conspiracy. His badge didn't protect him. It incriminated him. Lila wasn't charged criminally. She cooperated. Claimed manipulation, emotional coercion. Maybe it was true. Maybe she believed she was protecting the country. Or maybe she was protecting the man who made her feel seen. She came home the night the charges were announced. "I thought you were guilty," she said. He showed me things. I placed the printed chat logs on the kitchen table. "You weren't investigating me," I replied. "You were helping him." Her hands trembled. "You trusted him more than you trusted me." No anger, just fact. "I can fix this," she whispered. I almost admired the instinct. Surgeons believe everything can be repaired. I slid divorce papers across the table. "Already signed. You already fixed it," I said. Quietly. No apology. Just a correction. My career will recover. Slowly. Reputations do. But marriages don't survive forensic analysis. I watched Lila pack her things without offering help. No shouting. No pleading. Just gravity. Daniel Mercer lost his position, his clearance, and eventually his freedom. Lila lost something less visible. Me. I used to believe betrayal was emotional. It isn't. It's structural, a failure in design, and I don't rebuild structures that collapse under pressure. I redesign them, alone.